Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Copeland, and I love helping women find love after 50 at this time in their life. And that means in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, however old they are in that age group. I love helping them. And today I have a wonderful guest with me. Her name is Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm good. Stephanie was a client of mine in my Love After 50 group, and she found love. And we're going to talk about that today and just what it is that helped you get to that place. Because I want women out there to know that this is possible for them. So, Stephanie, before we started working together, what was happening in your dating life?
Well, my dating life was pretty boring. I was doing online dating, but not getting a lot of dates. And I was not going out on a lot of dates as a consequence. I wasn't meeting men offline as well.
And did you find it frustrating?
It was very frustrating and got to be very lonely at times also.
And what was the reason you ended up reaching out to me? What made you decide I need some help?
I really wanted to find out what I could do differently to attract more men in my life. I had other women of my age group who were dating more than I was, so I felt like there was more that I could do and was really open to any ideas that I could get.
So you came into my group, and what do you think was helpful to you for finding your guy?
A couple things. You had a man on one of the calls who talked about loving your body no matter what size. I've actually gained quite a bit of weight over the years, and I was able to feel better about my body out in the dating world. So that was very helpful. Also, learning to speak from your heart instead of from your head, and allowing a man to do things for you. Those were the three things that really stuck out to me the most.
And what was happening before with men before you were in this group? What was going on for you when it came to the language they speak in here?
I was more in my head when I was speaking. I also was not comfortable with my body size at all, and I think that was causing problems for me. And so those are probably the two biggest things.
That will really trip you up. It's because men love women of all shapes and sizes. And you had a man that came into our group and said the same thing and affirmed that. And then what happened? Did you find you had more confidence from all the work you had done? Or, what happened to make it so that you could get past this obstacle of weight?
It was a couple things. I think it was remembering what he said and just trying to work on loving my body and loving my size. And then looking for proof also out in the world that there were women of different sizes that had boyfriends or husbands. So just kind of reminding myself that my weight did not need to get in the way of me being in a relationship. Plus, I used to be in relationships with men that were very controlling around weight, even when I was really slender. So I had this pattern that I needed to break as well.
So you met your guy. Where'd you meet him?
I actually met him. It was a blizzard day in North Dakota. I live in North Dakota. And there was a blizzard till 6 o'clock at night. And that evening, there was a woman who was performing, a musician. And
Mhm.
during the day, my intuition told me I needed to get dolled up that night. So I was actually certain that I was going to meet somebody because my intuition never tells me to get dolled up. I would often get dolled up looking for somebody, but this is the first time my intuition said, you need to get dolled up tonight. So I went to see the musician, and there was only about 8 people in the room, and there was only one man without a wedding ring on, and I thought it might be him. So I was shining my light at him from across the room, and he came over and started chatting me up, but I instantly realized that this was not a good fit for me. And then right as the show was getting started, he said, "Oh, my friend's going to be here in a few minutes." And then I knew it was going to be his friend, and his friend showed up. I chatted him up after the musician was talking. So I was chatting him up for about 20 minutes. And then at the end of chatting, he said, "Well, I don't have a business card to give you." And I said, "Well, I do." So I pulled mine out. And then he actually the next day befriended me on Facebook, but I never used Facebook. So I had no idea he had befriended me. And then a few days later, his friend actually asked me out for coffee tea. And I
Mm.
told this friend that I'd love to go out as a group sometime, but I was really interested in connecting with his friend, Steve. And his friend graciously gave me Steve's number and information. I sent Steve an email and he called me that night and we've been dating ever since.
So I love that because you were not aggressive, but you were proactive. And what did it feel like when you called him to give, to let him know that you were interested? Tell us a little bit more about how you did that and how that made you feel to do that.
Yeah, well, I actually sent him an email. So I got his email address from his friend Dale. So I sent Steve an email and just sent a really short little email that said something like, really enjoyed meeting you, would love to connect again, Stephanie. And so it was very short and sweet.
Perfect.
And I felt great about the message. And like I said, he called me that night. Instead of responding to my email, he called me right away.
That is like so perfect. So I know, you and I talked over the years because there was a little bit of time between the time you ended in the group and the time you have found him. And what do you think kept you going when things got challenging on this journey?
Well, I just felt in my heart of hearts that I was going to meet somebody. So I just kept being very persistent. I dated somebody last year for about 6 weeks, which was a longer period of time for me. And that kind of fell apart because he didn't want to have pets in the house and I have pets. That was kind of a showstopper for us. But other than that, I was just really diligent about it and hoping that I would meet the right person. And so far, it looks like I'm doing pretty well.
Now, do you hold them up to your quality man template?
I do actually. I had a list of qualities. What I did is I had a little tiny dream box by my bed, and in it, I wrote all the qualities in there that I wanted. And he's got all the qualities except for one, and the one that he doesn't have is not a showstopper at all. And there were probably about 12 qualities that I put in this little box.
Well, in the quality man template, it also went even deeper. If you remember when we worked on that, did he have deal breakers? Does he share your values?
He shares my values, which is really important to
Yeah.
me. So I learned years ago that it's not important to necessarily have a lot in common. I mean, it's helpful to have a lot in common, but more important to have the same values. And we share a lot of the same values.
And
And he
that is
doesn't
something,
have any deal breakers for me at all.
we talk about in the group about how values were more, how they were more important than the actual qualities. So, Stephanie, how do you think working with a coach changed things for you on this journey?
It helped me find out the places where I was not doing what I could be doing in the dating world. It gave me some support, which I really enjoyed. And it gave me more direction in terms of what I could work on and what was working well for me.
And what would you say to someone who's watching this interview right now and they're feeling a little scared to go out and date? What would you say to them?
Well, you can't meet anybody if you're not out there on a regular, consistent basis. So you need to be out there on a consistent basis. I would also say to listen to your intuition. I think a lot of times women get in trouble because when we start dating somebody, we have little niggles of something being off and we don't listen.
Mhm.
So I would definitely say to listen to your intuition. And I used to be in sales, and we learned in sales that for every no you get closer to a yes.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
if on average you have to reach 10 people to get one yes, then every time you get a no, you actually celebrate and say, oh, I got a no, and I'm that much closer to getting a yes. So that was kind of something in the back of my mind when I'm out there dating, to remember that every time I get rejected or feel rejected, that I'm that much closer to meeting the man that I want to meet.
And that's a really good philosophy. So I do want to go back to the weight issue because women, even thin women, can have really big issues about their weight. So, what would you say to a woman who lets shame about her aging body or her weight prevent her from dating?
Well, I would say find a modality that works for you to help work through it. I use EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. It's a
Right.
tapping thing that you can use to tap through anxiety about your weight or anxiety about anything. So I would really encourage women to work through some sort of system to get through the anxiety, start learning to love themselves. Because, like I said, when I was really slender, I was super self conscious about my body, just as much as I am now, even though I'm a lot larger than I used to be. And I've gotten to a point of being much more comfortable with my body, even though I'm in a bigger size than I used to be. So I would just say find a way to be okay with it. And my experience is that men that are critical about weight are very controlling in other areas of life. So
Very
if you're
true.
with a man who's critical about your weight, regardless of what size you are, chances are he's going to be critical in other areas of your life and he may not be a good fit.
Very, very true. So, just one last question. And what did you do differently after working with a coach that you weren't doing before when you were trying to do this on your own?
I think I was doing more of trying to meet people offline and being more engaged offline. I also, as I had mentioned before, was doing more of trying to speak from my heart instead of my head. And also remembering, because I used to be more masculine in my energy, to
Mhm.
allow men to do things for me and to help me with things when they want to help things and be very appreciative of that. So, for example, Steve likes to open the door for me all the time. And I'm always saying, I love it when you open the door for me. And I'm very appreciative that he does that. And so it's little things like that that I wasn't doing beforehand.
I know we talk a lot about men in the group program, and we talk about how men really do need to be appreciated. And women that end up working with me, they tell me that they'll tell the men they worked with a coach, and they tell the men that, what it is that helped them. And the men will say to them, keep doing it. It's true. Do you find that Steve does that?
Well, I didn't tell him I work with a coach, but he's very appreciative of the fact that I appreciate the small things that he does quite a bit. And I compliment him quite a bit when I feel, and it's a heartfelt compliment on things to make him know that he is very cared for and loved.
Because it really encourages men to do more for you when you appreciate them. When we criticize men, they end up saying, I'm done. I'll never do anything right for you, so I'm not going to try anymore." And men even write me when I write about men. Men will write to me and tell me that they wish that women would listen when I write blogs about men or do videos about men, because it's true. And we as women really weren't taught this. Like you said, you came from your masculine side. So can you share just real quick what that was like, what you were doing versus your feminine side?
In terms of being in my masculine side, I would just say I would be more likely to give, like if we were driving, to want to give directions in the
Yeah.
side seat or to guide my partner in this A, B, C, and D. And now I'm much more laid back and just kind of let things roll as they do. And am just not so much in my head. I'm more in my heart when I'm with somebody.
Well, I think it's wonderful you met someone in real life. It is very possible to do. I know we also work on a lot of those skills for flirting and having the confidence to go up to a man without worrying that, well, they like me. Versus you want to be able to go up to a man and he has to prove that he's worthy of you versus us bending like a pretzel to prove we're worthy of him. And did that help you? Did those skills you learned about meeting men in real life, what helped you with that?
I
For
think
going,
just to remember to, I have people always compliment me on my smile. So I remember to smile a lot and just light up the room when I'm around him. And he often compliments me on my smile on a regular basis. And to just be really engaging with him. And I was very much in a mode of let's see if this is a good fit versus worrying how I came across or worrying if he would like me. I was more just like, let's just see if this is a good fit and a good connection between us.
and those, like I said, are skills that we work on, a whole big thing of it in the Fun Path program in Module 6, and about how to flirt and how to have fun, going out and meeting new men. So are there any last words that you want to share that you would offer as advice now that you are in a relationship? Because I know it was a struggle at times. And I'm so proud of you, but are there any last words encouraging words you would like to share?
My biggest thing is just to be sure you're really well respected in your relationship. I had spent many years in a marriage and previous relationships where I didn't feel respected. And I'm now in a relationship where there's a ton of respect, there's a lot of open mindedness and a lot of compassion. And I think those can really help you build a good relationship. And the other thing that I also learned from my therapist is that having difficult conversations can actually be a real gift early on in a conversation and in a relationship, because you realize who you're actually dealing with.
True.
So I was really practicing having conversations using I messages instead of you messages. And we've had many more serious conversations in the time that we've been together. And every time we have a conversation, I see what a beautiful being he is to come to the table open-hearted and compassionate. And he's often complimented me on how I handle these conversations. And so I realized early on that having those more serious conversations, or even having a conflict early on, can really help you grow in a relationship and find out who you're really working with.
Yes, it's always about taking responsibility and ownership for how you feel, whereas we have a tendency to project it on you need to change. And you want to bring it back into this is how I feel, which plays into the language that men speak in here of I feel. And you can help them understand where you're coming from. And that's awesome. I'm so happy for you, Stephanie, and you're glowing. And I'm so proud of you, because I remember the days that were so hard for you. And it's nice to hear that you met a really great guy. So for those of you who are out there, if you like these videos, be sure to subscribe in the button below and like it if you want to see more interviews like this. And also, if you're interested in finding out how to work with me, there is a link below this video that will share, which was where Stephanie came to too. We could do a 45-minute complimentary session to see what is happening and help you figure out what it is that is keeping you from finding love, and the clarity of what you need to do to find love with a good guy. Stephanie, so excited.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Relationship.
Thank you for your help. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. It was my pleasure.